intuition will tell you how to detect those combinations. What I mean by that is this. Here is one example we have on a board. You see that black's king has no move. So the white can by force checkmate black in 3 moves. You see, if white plays queen takes g7 and black plays rook takes g7, now I want you to see rook takes g7 would have been a mate if not the queen on b7, which can capture white rook. So the reason why this combination doesn't work is because the queen on b7 protects the g7, queen on b7 protects the g7 square. So what we have to do, we have to coordinate our efforts. So mate on g7, g7 is a 1 key square, and the other rook c8, that would have been a checkmate if not black's queen. So we notice that black's queen is overloaded. Now, this you have to have, once you see a lot of those combinations, you will be developing intuition. And intuition tells you right away, your eye immediately catches the g7 and c8 square. You play rook c8 check, deflect black's queen from g7, from protecting g7 square. And now after playing queen takes g7, rook takes g7, rook takes g7, checkmate. Now this combination definitely has a logical solution. A logical solution is the rook c8 check. There are many, many different types of themes and motifs. White has certain theme here, an h7 pawn. Now, can white play rook c6? And now white, what they do is attacking their queen and attacking the checkmating square. That will be okay, that probably wins. And if black plays g6, maybe simply bishop takes g6. That wins. But there is a better solution for white. White can by force checkmate black in a few moves. Now, what difference does it make if you play rook c6 or queen takes h7? Rook c6 seems like wins on this pad, because after g6, bishop takes g6. And it does win. But let's say for a second that black's queen was somewhere in this position. And if we go rook b6 or something, then black gives check, and maybe black can protect. Best way for a combination when you make moves, and every move, yours and your opponent's, is absolutely forced. The reason why it's important, because then you have no sub-variations, you have to calculate a lot more, and you know the more you have to calculate, the higher the chance of you making mistake, because you are a human and calculations can cause human mistakes. There is a force made by playing queen takes h7. Now, before we get to it, now here is the theme of the combination. We see the target. The target can be exploited several different ways. You have to find most efficient way. The most efficient way here is queen takes h7, because it's a more forceful and never from here to the checkmating position, black never has an option. King takes h7, rook h6 double check. It's a simple calculation. King g8, no choice because it's double check with a rook and a bishop. And now bishop e6 check, and after king f8, rook h8 checkmate. This is the most efficient way. But of course, you cannot randomly find this combination. You have to see the X-ray attack of the bishop on f5 to h7 square. So queen takes h7 is the most efficient way to do it. So now this is also theme. This is a theme with variety of ways to play, plus little calculation. Now let me give you more complicated way. Now here comes mating net. You construct mating net. Well, first we want to stop king from running away. For instance, if we go knight d4 check, king is going to run away. White still is going to have very good position, but it's nowhere near as good as checkmating if we have this possibility. And rook takes d6 forces mate. Now, the theme, what is the theme? Why rook takes d6 is thematic move. After rook takes d6, bishop takes d6 is forced, and you see that white's queen controls 7th horizontal. Now black's king has no move. For instance, if we can make illegal move, if we could take knight from f5 and put it to g5, that would have been a checkmate, but knight doesn't go like this. But now we notice that black's king cannot make any moves. Now we play knight d4 check. Why is this check so important? For two different reasons. After queen takes d4, now we can push f5 pawn. Remember, knight was on f5, so we couldn't go f5. Knight d4, queen takes d4, f5 check, and after king e5, the only move, queen g3, is the checkmate. You see, black's king is smothered with its own pieces, with knight, queen, bishop. The theme of this combination, you have to notice that king is smothered. King, you should cut off the escape squares. That's the direction your brain has to work. Direction of cutting off escape squares and bring king forward or checkmate him right where it is. Rook takes d6 is a good way to start it, and this is a winning move by force. Now white is a piece down, but white can by force checkmate black's king. Now let's look at the possibilities. We see that black's king has no moves at all. Now all we have to do, we have to get to that king, check him the way that he cannot capture our piece. Notice now, very interesting detail here. Suppose black did not have the g7 pawn. All I have to do is I have to get to black's king. This g7 pawn is critical. If black didn't have the g7 pawn, then white can play queen takes e6, pawn takes e6, and bishop h5 is a checkmate. Well, but we cannot take this pawn away. Pawn is there. Queen takes e6 is not going to work now because on bishop h5 is g6. So we have to find another way to get to black's king. And that's where we start search for a theme. We start search for what are the critical squares we can get into. They are all protected. Knight c7 would have been checkmate if not the rook on c8. Queen takes c6 would have been a checkmate if not bishop on b7 and rook on c8. Well, and you see rook d8 would have been a checkmate if not knight on c6 and rook on c8. In every case, black has some defense. They can capture our piece. What we have to do, we have to integrate those threats and find actual solution in getting to what we want. One piece that is on our way is the knight on c6. Notice that rook on c8 is overloaded. Rook on c8 protects black from knight c7 checkmate and rook d8 checkmate. But rook d8 checkmate he can capture with the rook or he can capture with the knight. And here comes solution. We first eliminate piece that is very important in defending the d8 square. Obviously, black cannot capture the queen with the rook because rook d8 will be checkmate. Okay, bishop has to take. Now you see that if black's rook stood somewhere on b file, knight c7 will be checkmate. If black's rook would have been on a8, same knight c7 is a checkmate. So rook has to stand on c8. So what is this rook protecting? This rook is protecting black from knight c7 checkmate. And also, if rook wasn't there, there would have been another checkmate, rook d8. And here comes the logical. This is strictly logic and a little bit of experience. We do knight c7 check first. We're forcing rook to move away from the 8th rank. Rook takes c7, and now rook d8 is a checkmate. Rook left the back rank. Well, you may say, why can't we do it the other way? That's where comes the simple calculation. If you do rook d8 check first, it's not going to do it because rook going to take on d8, and after knight c7 check, king d7, black can escape. So you used strict logic and little double checking. Then you see out of two moves, which one will get you where you want to get. And that's obviously knight c7 check, rook takes c7, and rook to d8 checkmate. That's not difficult at all. This is not difficult. And actually, all the play before that was that white conducted was aimed on this smothered and bad king's position where all white's pieces jump on a black's position and they assault black's king and they checkmate black. So those are this is well prepared attack, logically concluded with a checkmate, a cute but a relatively simple combination. It's a simple combination, and it's like it should be very easy for you once you are comfortable with these thematic exercises. Then you're going to get it in the game, and you're going to see it in 1-minute games maybe. That's how quick it will go. You're definitely going to see them in the tournament games. But then there are some different combinations that has very little, a lot less theme. Well, here is the position. White's king is weak, but so is black's king is under attack. Now we have to find a way, the pawn on c3. Black is threatening all kind of things, like a queen d2 check, queen e3 check. White's king is in a little jeopardy. Now, we can play queen takes c6, but what it's going to do for us? Do we have instant mate? We don't. However, here we have a theme that queen takes c6 opening the file. Well, let me tell you this, that statistically, most of the combinations and tactical themes you see, they don't work. Most of them, big majority of them, maybe 70%, maybe higher. Well, the combinations and themes and motifs, they are there. But you cannot, once you see the tactical theme, you cannot go there right away. That's like a guiding light for you that you have that, and now you see whether it's going to work or not. It's like when you go to store, you see some items, you like it, but you have to know what the price of it, whether it's worth buying or not. Here, you can, well, this is entirely tactics. All combinations, all tactics. Queen takes c6 is a forced checkmate. Pawn takes, but the good thing about this combination, why this it's a long, but it's very simple. Because notice that sometimes there are combinations that are long and very difficult to calculate. Some of them are short, but also very difficult to calculate. The reason why they are very difficult to calculate, because your opponent has variety of defenses, all different moves, different ways to go. And you have to be efficient in every one of them, and you have to make sure your combinations work. In this position, black, the easy part for white is black never has choice. Rook b8 check, king d7, and rook b7 check. Actually, they do have a choice here, but they are both very easy to calculate. Black has two moves, king c8 and king e8, and they are both very simple. On king e8, rook e7 check, king f8, knight takes c6, checkmate. Or, same thing happens on king c8, then rook c7 check, king b8, knight takes c6 check, king a8 and rook a7 checkmate. It's all forced. Your opponent never can deviate and improvise. So mate is strictly to the end forced. So those are relatively easy combinations, and themes are there. Here is another very simple version of thematic combination. Well, black's king is obviously under severe attack of white's pieces. Queen, knight, rook, possibly bishop. Now, how to find the final shot? If white plays knight h7 check, black has the only move king g8, because bishop is on the way between white's king and white's queen and black's king. But if white plays rook h8 check first, and black plays bishop takes h8, then knight h7 check will checkmate black's king, because king cannot go to g8. These are very simple combinations. And I'm not going to try to teach you now all these themes, because there are millions of books that you can take and you can see all different thematic combinations. And I'm not going to teach you how to see all the different themes. The purpose of my lecture here to show you how to notice those combinations. You go and solve more and more of them, and how to notice them. Once you know the themes, you will be finding them. Your eye will catch them, these combinations. There are some combinations that are not prepared. They have no theme, but they happen all the time. They actually, well, not all the time, very frequently. And sometimes it's very difficult to catch. Here, your eye, in this particular position, your eye catches that king has to be assaulted, black's king.
This is Grandmaster Damian Lemos here for onlinechesslessons.net. First of all, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to receive more free chess videos from us, you can just click the subscribe button below. I would also highly recommend signing up for my free mail course, the 10 Grandmaster Secrets to Dominate Chess. During this exclusive course from onlinechesslessons.net, I'll share with you my own Grandmaster shortcuts to effective attacking, defending, and growth hacks to improving your chess without complicated books or memorization. So sign up by clicking the sidebar on the right, and I know you won't be disappointed. Once more, this is Damian for onlinechesslessons.net, and I'll see you in my videos. Thank you.